I'm Rocky Blair. What is pulling each other along? Well, to me, it is a concept or moment where we not only recognize our own personal achievements, but also take the opportunity to pay it forward and to recognize the person, people, or beliefs that pulled us along to our own relative greatness. A pulling each other along moment may be as small as bringing a bike into school to give a ride to a classmate who walks with crutches, or a coach, parent, or friend that drives you to your very best. Often these moments do not get recognized, but the impact can be extraordinary. I encourage you to visit the Pulling Each Other Along Kickstarter page to offer your support of this life-altering movement. Thank you.
Thank you, Rocky. And this is the Rocky Blair Pulling Each Other Along show. Thanks for joining in. My name is Doug Cornfield. I am the co-author of the new book of Pulling Each Other along with Todd Sivan. And this is the Pulling Each Other Along show. If this is all new to you, we have some wonderful stories to tell. But more importantly, I've got some wonderful guests. Let me introduce Dave Geis. Dave Geis, where are you at tonight?
I'm sorry?
Where are you at tonight?
I am still in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
I'm sorry.
You're sorry? No, it's a good place. It's all right. It's all good.
Thanks for joining in. I know you're a Rocky fan, as so many of us at our age
Of course.
are, and so it's great to have you on the show again. Dave Geis, one of our hosts, and the infamous Dave Clark. Say hi to everybody from sunny Florida. Still sunny down there?
Well, it isn't quite sunny anymore, but I'm getting ready to watch the my Ravens against the Dolphins down here tonight.
Very good. So, and Dave Clark is our infamous Dave Clark. He's the only professional baseball player that ever played on crutches. If you're not familiar with his incredible story, go to thepullingeachatheralong.com and you can learn more. But today is a special show. Thank you guys for being with us once again on Thursday night. But we've got just an incredible person. I can say, Rocky, I'm going to pull you up on the screen here in just a second. But growing up, in Philadelphia, there was a couple of teams that we couldn't cheer for.
That's right.
That's right. And one of them was Pittsburgh Steelers, and the other one was Notre Dame. And of course, you fit there. So when we met at the Super Bowl a couple of years, and you forced these rings on my fingers, it was a privilege because even being that you were on the other side of the Pennsylvania state, we still had a lot of respect for you and what you do. And so without further ado, we're gonna introduce really a legend, Rocky Blair. Thanks for being with us today.
Hey, thank you, Doug. It's a pleasure. Dave and Dave, the two Daves. I appreciate it. And so
we might get the other Dave on too here. Some he's driving, but we'll
get him on later on. Guys, you should stop down in Appleton and just say hi to everybody for me.
I will. I work there, so it's not too far from here at all.
No, I know it isn't. That's it.
Yeah. And so again, it's great to have you, and especially when I asked you to be on the show, I was really kind of surprised you were even available on Veterans Day. So being that it's Veterans Day and that you're here and you've got not just an incredible football story, but almost more importantly, what you did is serve our country, and actually it is more important. I can say that, and so. You took the call and you didn't run from it, and a lot of people are really, really grateful. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Very good.
That's right. Oh, I'm sorry. That was a handoff. Okay, fine. I'm sorry.
I have all sorts of pictures. I can lead you through with all this stuff.
Well, that's right.
You got to put the ball in the breadbasket, Doug.
Yeah, it's not a pitch out.
I kind of did. He says he always didn't love Franco Harris because he got the ball too much.
That's right.
Bradshaw was his favorite.
Hey, I have a question for Rocky to lead off.
Go ahead.
First of all, I discovered today, Rocky, that you have the same birth date as my wife, March 5th.
Which is wonderful. One of the things that you then realize is that there's just very few of us perfect people around. So you understand that.
Oh, wow.
So, but one of my questions, Rock, is: did you ever have the opportunity to? I'm trying to put the timeline together. Did you ever have the privilege of playing against Johnny Unitas?
No.
Okay. Quick, short answer to that was no.
No.
Because I was trying to. Johnny was still playing in the '60s, and you played in '68, I believe, was your first year.
Right. Yeah, my first year.
And I think Johnny Unitas was still active, but you never got a chance to.
No, we didn't. No, we didn't play against him. We didn't at that in
Okay.
that year. So
That answered that question.
Yeah, that was
right.
Because I think Unitas was playing till like 70, 71, 72.
Well, he ended up. A lot of people don't know this. He ended up with the San Diego Chargers.
Right.
So that was kind of a, you envision him in a Baltimore Colt uniform, and
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
one of the things in one of the stories in the beginning that you may know is that he was the property of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. And the Steelers, in their wisdom, cut him.
Well, at least they didn't get Joe Namath either, did they?
No, they didn't.
But if they hadn't cut him, you never would have gotten Terry Bradshaw.
Well, yeah, they cut him way before that.
Yeah, I know that was back in the 50s.
I know that's it. Yeah. So that was the case.
Well, Rocky, definitely got some fans that are chiming in here, and if there's anybody that has a specific question for Rocky, feel free to put it in the chats, and we'll try to get to those as well. So thanks for joining us. This is the Pulling Each Other Along show, and so Rocky, it's been almost a year and a half since I called you and said, hey, do you want to be a part of this book? And you called me right back, which I so greatly appreciate. And you said, yep, I'm in. And for those that aren't familiar with this book we have coming out, it's called the Pulling Each Other Along book. We just launched a Kickstarter. So if you're inclined to help with getting a movement off the ground of inspiring stories and getting wisdom from people like Rocky Blair and Dave Clark, Dave Stevens, and so many others that are part of this book. But why did you accept it? What was your thinking?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is that what I like to tell people, and it's true, is that, we all have a story. We all have a story of how we got to where we are, even to this day. But through our playing career, through our growth, our opportunities as we come along. And the other thing too, is that we didn't get to where we are by ourselves. We got here because of other people that were within our world or within our reach. We got here because of parents, teachers, mentors, coaches, drill sergeants, people that gave us an opportunity, people that kicked our butt, people that pulled us by the ears, that pushed us and pulled us along to where we are today. And when you came up with that, the whole idea, I thought, how true, because in my life it is that, you become who you are, at least in the world of sports, not as an individual, but as a team. And it's the success of the team that gets you recognized, maybe for your contribution. And look at all the players that have played and so on throughout the decades in the world of sports, whether it be baseball or football or basketball in the NBA, whatever it might be. And we only remember a few who have reached that pinnacle, of being the dominant players. But they've all played, and they all had an experience, and they all got to that level for some reason. And I get to wear 4 Super Bowl rings. I get to wear a national championship. I get to be on a team that's the #1 ranked high school football team in the state of Wisconsin when I play, not because of me. I just happen to be there, but because of the team, the coaches, or the catalyst that pulls everybody together and molds them into that success. So you become recognized for your contribution to that. I was just listening to a tape on Tom Brady. Actually, just a minute. Tom Brady wrote a TB12. He wrote a book, and and they talked about his high school career, and he was like 500, and he got a chance, and the only school that took him was Michigan, and he had to fight his way to get up in there, and although they got to bowl games, and then he was a 6th round pick, in the NFL, by the Patriots, and ultimately, has played and continues to play 20 some years, in the league. But you look, he got to where he is by other people surrounding him, great talent, and he emerged. But that was the great thing, because we all have a story, and it's the story that needs to be told. I don't care whether we are champions, whether we're participants, or whether you're writing a book, or we're monitoring this podcast. It's like, okay, fine. We all have how we got to where we are today. And those stories need to be told because along the way we need our inspiration. And that's what this book does. Gives you the inspiration of saying, okay, fine, look at these people and how they got there, because there was always somebody that helped pull them along to reach where they were.
That's I guess that's about as good as we could say it, Rocky. So I appreciate that. And, one of the things that I'm struggling with the marketing of this book is we got this wonderful book, but how do we get people motivated to help us? How do we get those people to go to see the profiles of 7-time Emmy Award winner Dave Stevens and Dave Clark that most people have never heard of, the man on the screen right beside you who had a 17-year career of playing in minor leagues off of crutches. And then we have people like Chris Nickick, who just Down syndrome man, who just finished the Ironman a year ago. And we have Audie Angel, who's now struggling with cancer again, but she was paralyzed, and she's the hip hop queen of dancing. And you've got all these incredible stories, but we want to be able to communicate that. And what would your advice be for us to be able to communicate and market and get it out there?
Well, in today's society, one of the things we're doing, this becomes very important. This podcast, to be able to get the word out. Social media obviously is the marketing tool today, and to be able to spread that out within the social media world as we best possibly can, and we got to what's the word? Like rainmakers was the old world, but we have influencers that are out there today that somehow we need to be able to touch base with that can get that word out as well to their people, and so it's just constantly marketing. It's constantly telling the stories. It's constantly getting people out, and being able to share those stories, and ultimately saying what a great inspiration it is for our youth today, for people in general today, to say, okay, fine. A lot of people just, think that they're entitled to whatever is along the way, rather than having to work for whatever they want to achieve. They think they're entitled. And that's somewhat of our society today. And I hate to say this, but of a younger generation that comes up, and a work ethic that needs to be reestablished or reinforced. And this is what this book shows: people who overcome obstacles and set a goal and are willing to work towards that goal and ultimately achieve it, no matter what their station in life was.
Yeah, exactly.
That was worth its weight in podcast for all those people that are out here listening. And hopefully it was worth getting the book at the pullingeachatheralong.com. And if you want to learn more about what we are doing, please go to pullingeachatheralong.com. Dave Stevens, thanks for joining us. I know you're in your car. I got you on mute right now because your car was a little loud, but I'll pull you in. Give me a thumbs up if you got something good to say. But if you don't know what we're talking about, I wanted to take a minute to show a video. I kind of revamped this video that I've been sharing about Dave Clark. Now, Dave played professional baseball. He's got an amazing story, all that stuff. But we've been sharing a story from his first grade youth that has had an impact. And it's a very short video, but please stay tuned and you'll hopefully get a little better idea of what Pulling Each Other Along is.
There were a million guys more talented.
Wrong.
That was cool.
When I came out of the reconstruction home in Ithaca, New York, I was wearing a little set of leg braces, and walking with crutches. Once I started attending grade school, I was made to feel different. We had a field trip slated for first grade, and it was walking, maybe 5-6 blocks. I was deathly afraid of holding the class up. Our teacher had told us 2 weeks before this was going to happen, so for 13 straight days I've got anxiety and I'm getting nervous about this thing coming up. Day of the trip, one of my little first grade classmates, and I never forgot his name, Ernie Pound, pulled his little red Flyer wagon up and he said, "Dave, jump in, I want to pull you." That changed that whole day for me, made it a fun trip, enjoyable instead of the anxiety. It all washed away when Ernie brought his wagon up. Unknown to me, they had found him. And who's this to?
Ernie Pound.
You found him, I can't believe it.
Thank you very much.
Well, hopefully that video touched some people. Ernie Pound was there, and Dave got reunited with Ernie. Love you, Rocky. You got all sorts of fans out here. Nobody loves Dave Clark today. I don't know.
It's kind of a nice change.
Why would they, man? Why would they?
Dave Stevens, let me pull you in to say hi to Rocky here real quick while you're driving.
Hey, Rocky, how are you, my friend?
I'm fine.
I
I'm fine,
was
Dave.
just at a veterans dedication of a new building for the veterans in Norwich, Connecticut. It's a great facility that Easter Seals has put together for the veterans to learn new skills. I might be teaching TV and media there, and it's a perfect day to be there with Senator Richard Blumenthal and a bunch of other executives, and having Rocky, man. Rocky's story is one of the greatest stories. My favorite football player growing up, and to be able to get to know Rocky and to talk to him about football and Franco and Terry, and now to be a part of our book to tell your story. It sucks that COVID's keeping us away, but I can't wait to see you and hug you, my friend.
Same here. Thanks, Dave. Yes.
Very good. So, Rocky, you're getting some haters coming on too here. I don't know. Mike Bleier, he said he never liked you because the Steelers killed the Brownies.
That's our old former general manager.
I haven't seen any yet. I guess maybe I'm only getting the good stuff though.
Yeah. That one just came in. I don't know. That's Mike Bowers. He was actually on our show not too long ago, and Dave, good friends with Dave Clark, and I've gotten.
He's a huge Cleveland fan.
Yeah.
Oh, and they should be. And that's the great. I mean, the great thing about sports, and the great thing about being on a podcast like this and having people call in or express their feelings is that they get the chance to talk about their team, and their experience and why they are a Ravens fan or a Browns fan, and that becomes very important because those rivalries, it makes this game exciting. And it's what drives us to go to the games, to go over and to beat the Ravens because of that great rivalry, And now we got to contend with the Brownies, only because of the fact that they've a pretty good team together.
Yeah.
So now we.
Dave, you got a question? I saw you waving your hand.
Which Dave?
Dave Clark.
Oh, me?
That's right. 3 Daves on.
I can speak from a baseball perspective, Rock, but I can't speak from a football perspective. When I played, and you and I played kind of in the same era. You're a little bit ahead of me, but how has the NFL changed since your playing days? I mean, I can remember quarterbacks getting obliterated. I mean, and nowadays, you can't do that anymore. In your eyes, in your opinion, how has the NFL changed? And is it good? Is it bad?
Well, I mean, the unfortunate thing is that you're talking to an old guy. It's like growing up It's like growing up and you're talking to your grandkids and they go, oh, and they roll their eyes and it's like grandpa talk,
I
the
get it.
old days, the way things were, and so on and so on. So, when we talk, when I talk to my fellow ball players today and about the game, you go, can you believe that? I mean, now it's a penalty. I mean, we used to be able to sack the quarterback. You used to be able to hit. We used to play bump and run from the start. You could beat those receivers up all the way down the field as you wanted to. Now you can't touch them, and so the game has changed. The game has changed. It becomes a marketing game. What we want is scoring. What we want is excitement and opening games. A great defensive game. Might be exciting for us older guys, but for the fan today, it's not as exciting, So interesting, just as a comparison. Not that we have any hockey fans or players to represent it, but you think in hockey is considering how do we open the game? How do we get more goals scored? Because you're playing a game and it's 1-0 or so, and you can look at all the skills that take place, but as a fan to come and watch, what we want is scoring. We want movement. We want So anyway, so that's what happens today.
I think about
you gonna head out, Dave? You gonna say goodbye, or you gonna?
I have a question for Rocky.
Yeah, go ahead. Shoot question.
Rocky, I know, you've also had to watch a lot of your teammates who are no longer on this planet. I mean, Mike Webster's life, he gave his life for football, and football most likely caused his death. And I'm just wondering, what is that like to watch your comrades who you fought with, who've battled that, and is the NFL doing enough to take care of them and their brains?
No, I think there's several things that you talk about. There is that, yes, it's a shame to have seen some of what has happened to some of the former players from an injury perspective, from a concussion perspective, from a dementia perspective, and other illnesses that are now coming to forefront. So I think the NFL is very much aware of it. Players Association is very much aware of it. And they're doing all they possibly can to try to prevent that. It's still a contact game. It's still a contact game. And that's always going to be a part of it. But if we can control it more so that there's not that, blindsided hit that's going to knock somebody out or a quarterback out or ultimately have sustained concussions over a period of time, well, then that's better for the game and ultimately better for the player as well. So that's why the rules have changed to a lot of degree for the safety of the player.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to cut back on some of the music, so I got a couple of these guys muted, but I'm pulling them back up. Anyway, we have maybe a little bit of echo going on, but obviously I hear echo like when we watch major newscasts on these things. So I think it's kind of half accepted these days. There's really not much we can do about it. But Rocky, I did want to get into your story a little bit because you have a chapter in the Pulling Each Other Along book, and I want to find out what was that one thing. I mean, you have several things in the book, and probably some great advice will come out of that chapter as well, just as people read. But what's that one thing that you feel like pulled you along, since it's Veteran Day, in your Army days? Let's go there because this is Veterans Day. What pulled you along during those days and that time?
Well, I think, there's several things. There is a spirituality to, pulling us along. There's a basic belief system that will get us out of trouble or so on. So faith becomes very important, at least to me, in those cases. A belief system that there's greater power to be able to help you along in so doing. Then, in my case, in my case specifically, things happen. Okay, so things happen as we know, and then it's the influence that takes place along the way. So, for instance, it was just, I tell the story, we were in a firefight, we got hit, sister platoon fought its way down. Now they're dragging us out, out of there. They're dragging me out on a poncho liner. It's late at night, and it's helicopters can't come in, so they're dragging the wounded as they best possibly can for miles during the night. It's taken a long time to get there. So they finally get to a point where they go, okay, fine, we can't carry you anymore, and we'll send a stretcher back to be able to pick you up. When out of the darkness, and so you go back to 1969, this is out of the darkness, two black hands reach down, pick me up, and scoops me up and throws me over his shoulders and starts carrying me out fireman style. And he would put me down, catch his breath, as I say, my blood all over him, and pick me up again until he would got me onto that chopper. And I never saw him again. I didn't know who he was, his name, where he lived, where he came from. But you say, okay, fine. If that didn't happen, who knows what have happened? And all of a sudden, you have that kind of intersection that takes place within your lives, and and it gets you to the next point. You get a triple amputee that's got a great positive attitude when you're lying in bed, and he's not going to walk, and you're going to walk someday. But he's giving you a inspirational pump job that say, come on, you can do it. You look better today than you did yesterday. We got great docs. We'll get you out of here, and we'll see you back in the real world. So, all of a sudden you go, wow, if he's got an attitude like that, what about me? Doctor tells me I can't play, and I get a postcard in the mail from, it's got 2 lines, and it says, Rock, the team's not doing well. We need you. Art Rooney. Wow, somebody needs you at time of needs. They don't need me, but somebody cares. And I think that's all we really look for, is that somebody cares, and gives you a chance or an opportunity, and and as I say, pulls you along in those regards. And so I have multiple stories of that nature that maybe we all have in our lives that got us to where we are at this time. And so and I do believe we talk about those in the chapter in the book, in your book.
We do. And obviously you could have a whole book, but we wanted to focus on kind of that those people that pulled you along. I think you even mentioned your nuns and obviously your parents. And,
That's right.
In line, which probably wasn't easy.
That's right. I always tell people, it's my experience, or all of us, is having 16 years or having 8 years of 16 years of Catholic education, 8 years with Notre Dame nuns, 4 years of Christian Brothers, 4 years of Holy Cross priests, made me the person I am today. And they go, well, why? Well, it was yes, sister, no sister, which morphed into yes, mom, no mom, yes, dad, no dad, yes, coach, no coach, yes, brother, no brother, yes, sergeant, no sergeant, yes, dear, no dear. So right. It's those steps that we learn along the way, and the influences that we have, kind of make us who we are today.
Hey, speaking of positive attitude, I'm echoing here. I can hear myself. But speaking of positive attitude, I'm bringing in somebody I wanted to introduce you to that's also a part of the book. This is Jay Lawrence. He doesn't have his lights on very high, but I just wanted to introduce Jay. Are you there, Jay? You got a decent connection for us? You may not. We might have to try a little bit later. That's always fun when we don't have that. We're gonna have to say hi to Jay later. But Jay's a part of the book, Rocky. Right. He was a great athlete, star baseball player, star football player in Cape Coral, Florida, and and he had that sudden day where he made a bad choice and had an accident, and he's a quadriplegic. But when you talk about somebody with great attitude, it's Jay Lawrence, and so he's one of those in our book. You can see in the profile page on the pullingeachotheral.com website, stories about Jay. Now he actually owns a small minor league football team down in Florida, so he's got the football connection with you, and he's trying to get that bigger. But what I love about his particular football team is that he gets a lot of kids that are young men that didn't get to go into college that probably would get in trouble, and he gets them playing football on his team, and he gets them doing community work and some great things there. So hopefully someday we get to connect you with him, and I'm going to unmute Dave and Dave again and see where we go from here. You want to talk a little football, but I had all sorts of pictures of you, Rocky, from your playing days. I think I got to mute Dave Stevens because it's quite loud. But from your veterans days, and I just want this was just what, on Monday night?
Yeah, there's Monday night. Yeah, with Brett Michaels and Nelson Lowe's, and the guy in the middle is Nelson Lowe's, who was selected as the Steeler Fan of the Year.
Oh wow!
And he's a Vietnam veteran, 22 years in the service. And he's avid. He comes from Johnstown, Pennsylvania, an avid Steeler fan. He's got his man cave downstairs that his family shared with us, and so it was great to be able to be with both Brett and Nelson as we twirled the towel in the beginning.
Right. I saw some video of that actually. So
right,
it's not a towel I would twirl, but good for you.
I know.
So, but this picture I found, I know that this picture that almost looks like it should be from your movie.
Yeah, it does. No, yeah, it would be Robert Urich actually. So, and I have no idea.
He looks better than you, I think, right?
Well, of course he does. That's why we selected him. All good looking, a lot of hair.
Right. That's the way it works. It's like is that Rocky or is that not Rocky? And I'm like,
that's it.
That's a good shot. So anyway, one of the things I want to thank you for helping pull us along in the Pulling Each Other Along movement, as we're hoping that we can encourage people to understand that human kindness still exists, and we don't have to be so divided. We can focus on those things that are good in this world and not get so wrapped up in all the ugliness. But when I was with you at the Super Bowl, somebody came up. It was a funny scene because it was very crowded. This was before COVID, we were all cramped into the Radio Row there, and Terry Bradshaw and his entourage walks by. You yell out, he looks over and he goes, "Hey, it's you." And so he comes over and gives you a big handshake. And I happened to take that picture. It was pretty cool. But thank you for something. And those that are listening, you can actually go on our website, and Rocky helped me secure somebody fairly famous, Terry Bradshaw, to write the foreword for this new book, Pulling Each Other Along. And you can go read this. It's a very humorous but very touching foreword. And thank you for introducing us and making that all happen. That was a pretty big score when he said he would do that with us.
That's right. Yes, and so it is. And Terry, and TB, as he's now referred to, is really a great teammate, but a wonderful person. And he shares, and is not afraid to get involved in things and to do the things that he believes in, but also that he things that are very important. And he thought that writing the foreword was a great honor for him to be a part of this book. And he did it without any hesitation at all. So that was awfully nice of him to be able to do that.
Right. Dave Stevens is waving his hand again. That means he's probably got something good to say.
Well, I'm just wondering, Rocky, I'm watching Terry give away all this money on Fox. Can you hit him up for any of that stuff? He just seems to be giving all away millions of dollars.
That's right. Well, obviously, we're not getting any of it.
Well, we have to figure that out somehow or something.
Right. Yeah, no.
But obviously, him helping with the foreword or whatever, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And so that's something here. Somebody's reminding me of something that you helped pull your team along once upon a time in the Super Bowl. Tell us about that. Everyone remembers Swanee's catch in 10, but the catch Rock made in 13 was a catch for the ages. Is this true?
That's right. It's an interesting. Yes, it is. So that game was the second time we were playing the Dallas Cowboys, and it was a very toughly fought battle, and we'd beat the Cowboys the first time, and now we're back playing them again. The score was tied 14-14, and it was right before the half, and we got an interception, and then we drove the ball down as the clock's ticking away before halftime, and we find ourselves down on the 7-yard line, and it was 3rd and down and 1 yard to go for a first down. And the play that it was called was a quick pass play to the halfback myself, where I'd go down the line of scrimmage. Bradshaw would, it's a play action fake to Franco, pull it out, hit me very quickly. And we've all seen that play, fall over the line, pick up the first down. That was it. Well, when I broke out of my stance, my opponent, D. Lewis, jumped across the line of scrimmage, and I took my path, and I only could do was turn it upfield as I best possibly can. And so Terry Fakes pulls out, doesn't see me there. Now it's a broken play, and he's scrambling around, and time goes. And so now a distant goes. And in the last second, our eyes meet across the field, and he throws the ball, and it comes flying into the end zone, like he's throwing it out of the end zone. At least that was my thought. And I thought, wow, if I could just get up there and maybe tip the ball, maybe it fall into my arms, whatever the situation might be, and I throw my hands up, and thunk, it stuck within my hands, and we come down and we score and take the lead at halftime. And it was a lead, I like to say, that we didn't relinquish, and ultimately we won the game. But the interesting thing is that after all those years, and you got one play, you talk about pulling along. I went back accidentally, and I was looking at my stats for that game. You forget about what you do. You forget the highlights of the game, and you remember some things, but not everything. And so I went and I looked at my stats, and my stats were this. I carried the ball twice in the game for 1 yard. I caught one pass and recovered one onside kick. But I made the cover of Sports Illustrated. It's not the body of work; it's what you do. That's
what we're looking for. One play, and
one play that makes a difference.
Well, that correlates to Dave's wagon story. Here he had a little boy many years ago pull him in a wagon, and we're still talking about that today.
Today, right?
Play that should be on Sports Illustrated, because it. Yeah, there you go. But it should be on something. Of course, Dave Clark should be on Sports Illustrated. But
right.
Back in the day, they'd be telling him to get off the field because they didn't think somebody should be on the field, even though they were competitive. Anyway, Jay is saying.
I have a question, Doug.
Go ahead, Dave.
For Rock, and that you just hit a nerve there back on the field. So, Rock, when you first came back to the Steelers, and you had suffered the injuries in Vietnam, and you're trying to make a comeback. I'm interested in knowing, and I'm sure a lot of people are, how did your own teammates accept you or adjust to you when you weren't 100%? Did they say, "What the hell are you doing here?" or were they fully supportive?
Well, I think they were very supportive. They were very supportive because I don't think they perceived me as a threat. To especially in the running backs. All the other team members, and they didn't care. They go, "Oh, okay, fine. This kid's coming back." They understood what took place, and then so as you're going through the process, they're probably wondering, why are you doing this, or why are you going through all this? It wasn't the easiest thing to go through at the beginning of the first season and so on, and why are you doing this? So, ultimately I was not a threat to them or even to the running backs at that time. And so they were very supportive of being there and helping me go through, and I do tell an honest to goodness. I mean, I'd come back, after practice, after 2 days, after a period of time, and my wounds would, my wounds would bleed, and so my socks would be all bloody as I get undressed, and they would see this, and they think, oh wow, I mean, my goodness gracious. And so Terry Hanratty, who was a rookie quarterback at the time, and I played with him at Notre Dame, would rub my feet at night. They'd cramp up, and so they would massage. Get blood flowing through. They didn't have to do that, but they would do it. I mean, little things like this. So they were. They were very supportive of the effort. And so that was. And I think one of the things along the way too is a mindset. Of what you have, and so in my case specifically, I was looking at, all of us who played, no matter what, have had scrapes and bumps and bruises, along the way, just playing in the backyard, or just playing with kids, or in pickup games, or so on. You get a sprained ankle, or you stub your fingers, or you get a bruise here and you sore here, or you might get a cut there, and you kind of learn lessons along the way, is that, it hurts, and you go to mom and she fixes you up, or then you have to go to the doctor, but then you go through rehab, and then you're back out playing again, as if nothing happened a week later, or whatever it might be. So that's kind of a mindset that, that playing sports kind of puts you in. And so in my case, the mindset was, all right, fine, this is what I have to do. I fortunately for me at that period of time was that I'm hurt. Yes, I understand it, but I didn't lose a limb or a leg. And so that's not going to prevent me from going back. So I can only do what I can do to get myself in shape. I can't control what they think or what they decide. So it's all those ifs that we have in our lives as we go through it, as you look back and go, wow, if I would have done that, if I would have worked harder, you kind of want to erase those as you best possibly can. We're always going to have them, but you're going to say, okay, fine. If I got to a point where it didn't work out and the team goes, okay, we're releasing you for whatever reason, to yourself, you got to say, okay, fine. I believe I did everything I possibly could to get to that point. I can't change their mind, and I'll go on with my life, whatever that might be. So that, that was a lesson learned. Obviously, they gave me an opportunity and a chance, and being the team they were, they kept me around for a couple of years before I could make the team. But it took me 4 years before I got a chance to play, before I got a chance to carry the ball on any consistency. So
we do have a question, but I want to segue to something, because we want to see what you still know. And Dave, for some reason, when I pull you up, Dave Geis, it starts getting echoey. But we have every week since Thursday Night Football has started, we've done a little prediction. And sadly, I'm not winning.
Can you show the standings, Doug?
No, I didn't have the standings up here this time, because I don't want to show them, because Dave Clark is on top of those standings right now.
That's right.
And Dave Geis and I are at the bottom tied with our records. But we got to do our predictions. And Rocky, since you should be the most knowledgeable football player on this podcast right now, maybe Dave Stevens, he might outdo you with all his years at ESPN. And then I got 2 baseball guys and I'm a track guy. So I don't know. I should be losing for all intents and purposes.
All right.
So
Dave, what's the record? The Ravens are 6-2, correct?
I'm 7-2 this year.
on predictions.
Okay.
On predictions.
Okay, fine. But their record is
they're 6-2 going into the night, Rock. And
Miami's what?
2 and something.
Miami is 1-7.
2, I think. We got 2.
Something like that. 2-6, 1-7.
So
who are you going with, Rock? We're putting you on first.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I mean, I've seen the Ravens play, and the reason that they're 6-2 is that they play consistent. I mean, they play consistent football. I mean, it's not they don't play to the level, of their opponent. They play to their level. And obviously, in any game, anything can happen. But going into this game, and I'm not talking about points or any of these things, is that it's going to be a Raven victory against the Miami. Sorry, guys, but that's my pick.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Dave Geis, since you're the next on the screen. But I have to unmute you here for a second. Sorry that you've been having some feedback. Go ahead, Dave Geis. Who you pick tonight?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Obviously, I would say Baltimore, but since I'm at the bottom and I have to make up some time here,
Ooh.
I gotta say Miami. Not that I really think they're going to, but I have to.
All right.
I know who Dave Clark is.
It's a Hail Mary from
Yes.
Dave Geis.
Yes.
We got a lot of time left, so I don't know.
Yeah, you're giving it up already. Holy mackerel!
So we'll go. Dave Geis has got Miami.
Yeah.
I'm going with Baltimore. I think Baltimore's got to win tonight. Although my heart would be, I'd rather see the Dolphins win, but predictions wise, it's got to be Baltimore.
Why would your heart want you to see the Dolphins win? Because I'm a Raven fan.
Why would I root for the Ravens? I mean, unless they're playing the Steelers, there's no reason.
You don't even need to ask me my pick, do you?
I don't need to ask you your pick. It's Baltimore. So even if they were 1-14, you'd be going with Baltimore.
I go back to Johnny Unitas, so you don't need to. You didn't need to ask me. Baltimore.
Right. So Dave Stevens, you're Baltimore. That was easy. And if folks want to join in on the chat, you can tell us who you think is going to win tonight. But it's not as obvious this week, or it's more obvious this week than it has been some of our past Thursday nights. So that's just the way it is. But we can't help it. And then we have another question we have to ask every week, even though a lot of our regulars aren't on tonight because we did the show a little bit earlier. But we ask this question every week, Rocky. Yes. Dave loves donuts, Dave Clark, and I put that in my children's book, APoundOfKindness.com, the true story. That's the inspiration behind the Pulling Each Other Along book. And I have him keeping a donut away from his dog Duke because he loves him so much he wouldn't share. So that wasn't very kind. So Dave had to learn kindness from Ernie Pound later in the book. But we asked this question: what is your favorite donut? We put you on the spot for your favorite donut of all time, or now, or whenever.
Holy man, you did put me on the spot. My favorite kind of a donut. My favorite kind of a donut is that one. If I see donuts wherever they may come from, and there's an array of donuts, I will look for basically a chocolate stuffed donut. So it's got cream inside. It's got, it's round. It's got the cream inside. It's got chocolate on top of it.
But you don't want to call it a Boston or anything. You just want to.
I don't know what the name is. Is that the name of it? I don't know what their name. But that's Boston, the one I like. So yeah.
There we go, Boston cream. But you probably aren't eating donuts very much. You're keeping that that trim.
Well, I try. Not that often. You're right. So, but anybody who happens to have them free, I will partake.
Free donuts. That's how we do Rocky. Free donuts.
That's right.
So yeah, somebody's trying to help you out here. It's called a Boston cream, but I think you probably don't like Boston. So.
Oh no, I have nothing against Boston at all. I have nothing against Boston at all, and if it's called Boston cream, then that's the one I like. Yes,
probably that's probably the one. It's obviously there's a lot of good donuts, so we're good. So, is there any other questions? Rocky.
Dave's got one.
Dave. All right, gotta unmute.
Stevens.
Here you go. There you go, Dave Stevens.
Well, I didn't get to make my pick.
I thought you said. I thought you said Baltimore.
I didn't say a word. You muted me. So.
You cut him off, man.
What I'd like to pull for Miami just because they're the only other team that has a football player missing body parts, much like me. Shaquem Griffin plays for Miami, but obviously, realistically, Baltimore is going to win that game tonight. But I had a question for Rocky because we don't get to ask this very often. We talk about Super Bowl, but there are only a handful of iconic plays that you name them. The miracle, all these things. So give us your perspective of what the Immaculate Reception was like.
Okay. From my perspective, I can tell you it from my perspective is this, was that over the years since the Immaculate Reception, so it's almost 50 years? 50 years? Almost. I mean, so 49 years, right? Okay. In that period of time, I met 436,193 people who saw the Immaculate Reception, who were in that stadium. Confessed to me, I saw it. I was there. I actually saw it. And my reaction to them is, oh, no, you didn't see it. You didn't see it. Even if you were in the stadium, you didn't see it. Why is that? Human nature. Human nature does not like bad endings. Okay. I mean, so I said, so it's fourth down, 10 yards to go, 28 seconds left on the clock. Bradshaw drops back and he releases the ball going downfield to Frenchie Fuqua, Jack Tatum. They collide, and the ball goes up in the air.
Game over.
Your reaction, if you're in the stands watching that, is what? Oh my God, no.
Game over.
Didn't see what took place. I don't care whether you're there or there. Now, for me specifically, I was like 40 yards down on the sidelines. I wasn't on the field. And I thought to myself, I can't watch this. And I turned away from the field at that time to make some kind of like gesture so that, anyway, I missed the whole thing. Everybody's cheering. What happened? Franco scored. You're kidding me. No. So here's the great thing. I'm down 40 yards. Everybody's rushing down there into the end zone. They're jumping on Franco. So when you go and you see the highlight of the Immaculate Reception on YouTube or whatever it might be, and they only have like 10 seconds. So the 10 seconds is at the end. Okay. Well, that's that. But at the end, running in is a big number 20 because I was so far, so I made the highlights and jumping onto the pile at the end.
Well, that's the right place to be on the pile. Dave's been on the other end of that pile.
Yeah, I'm usually on the bottom.
Yeah, you've told me a funny story about you being at the end, at the bottom of a pile, but it was not a victory pile, I don't think.
No. That was a fight pile.
Yeah,
the fight pile.
Well, that's right.
So, how did you get on the bottom? That's what I'm always wondering.
I don't know. I'm like Rock. How do you get there? You join in a fight, and the next thing you know, you're on the bottom of the pile. And it's very dark and lonely at the bottom of those piles, man.
Even if it's for a few seconds, it's pretty dark and lonely. So, Hey, I'm going to pull in somebody Gretchen, Rocky.
Yeah,
this is your social media queen, from what I understand. So, gotten to know her, and she's been posting some stuff. So thank you, Gretchen. And she told me a story today that made you go viral. And so it's one of your biggest things that you went viral. And I thought, oh, I like this story. Do you know what we're referring to, Rock?
I'm afraid to ask.
You're afraid to ask?
No,
it's when you said
what story was it?
It's when you said you gave up on Steeler Nation.
Oh, that was it. That was a couple of years ago.
No, knowing that's not what you meant, but
No. I gave up on it. It was like the team. It was the way they were playing and what had taken place. It was like you're a fan. You're a fan. It's all you got to go. I give up. Decisions that were made from the coaching side, the way they were playing. You go, what's going on here? And anyway, that's what I remember at the time.
Gotcha. So yeah, but it's funny the things that will go viral these days. You say something like that, and
that's right.
And all of a sudden, you're the worst Steeler fan ever. Person
That's
ever.
Right. Yeah,
it's crazy with those things. So anyway, hey, Dave, you got any more questions? Dave, and we could talk with Rocky.
Yeah, I got one quick one. When you played at Notre Dame, Rock, was your coach Era Persigian?
Yes, he was. Yeah, so Era was my first. I was his freshman class, so I was the first recruited class that he brought in at that time in 1964. So yes, he was our coach those 4 years.
I know there is one thing that I wanted to bring up to people and let them know. I think there's a couple of cool things that you do now, and I got to see this online during the COVID days. But tell us what you're doing here, Rocky. Why are you holding a chair, and what are you doing?
Well, we have a one-man show. We have a one-man show called The Play with Rocky Blair, and it's a 90-minute show. Goes in 3 acts, and we talk about and the place takes place in 3 bars. So we go back to growing up in Appleton, Wisconsin, my home bar, and the people that were there and what had taken place. And so that story kind of morphs into Notre Dame, and then the 1966 game against Michigan State, and the year we win the national championship. Then the second bar is a Pittsburgh bar, and so it morphs into coming to Pittsburgh and what took place early in the career, and then going to Vietnam, and then coming back. And then the third bar is my home bar, in which we sit back and reflect on what, why did those Steeler teams succeed over that period of time. And I talk about my family, and so we talk about that success and the Super Bowls that we were in. And so that's kind of what we touch upon. But there's stories, and they're just stories, and there's stories. And so we've been doing it for 6 years, I guess.
You've been doing that for 6 years? Wow.
Yeah.
And you still have it memorized right now?
Pardon?
You still have it all memorized?
I do. I got to refresh it every now and then, but most of the majority of it I do, and 80% of it, is in my mind. So that's what we do. And it's
very good. Yeah. Well, if I can ask you a question, I don't know. I should probably not do this online because you might say no. But we put on some Rocky Bleier perks on the Pulling Each Other Along Kickstarter. Which people can go to the Kickstarter. If you don't know what a Kickstarter is, we're trying to raise money to help raise money for more books, but really it's much more than book to help us get enough marketing so we can get this out there, get Rocky speaking more, getting him do more plays, all those kind of things and other things. But that perk, 2 of those went right away. So because they get to get one of these Rocky Blair jerseys in that perk that you signed for so graciously.
Okay. That's right.
So, and they get a black and gold. It's a Pittsburgh Steelers perk. So they can go on. There's one left right now, but I want to add another one, probably for a little bit more money, but we'll see how that goes. But would you be willing to add like a 15-minute Zoom with a person that buys one of those perks for upwards of $700, $800, $900, $1,000?
Sure, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that personally.
Wow.
That's why I felt good to ask.
Yeah.
So somebody that wants to meet and chat with you on a one-on-one basis could be a nice perk for a not even just a Pittsburgh Steeler fan. I could say from my perspective, I grew up around athletes, world-class athletes. My dad was in the sporting goods industry. I would not doubt a bit that if you guys met at one point in your life, but if there was 5 guys in sports that I would have wanted to meet that day at the Super Bowl 3 years ago, you would have been on that list.
Well,
and I can't even think of the other 4. So, it's just, I already met Dave Clark. So what else?
That's
who
right.
else?
Where is it? That's it.
And I met Dave Stevens and these incredible athletes and that I've gotten to meet their stories are so far beyond really sports itself. And same thing with the pulling each other along stories. They're beyond sports themselves. So join in, get a book. If nothing else, go pre-order a book. They'll be out soon. But help us to get some marketing money so we can get more books, get these stories into people's hands, encourage people, all those great things. Go to pullingeachotheral.com to see that. We really, really appreciate it. There's some other things that you can get, including a black and gold hat, a black and gold hoodie from Rocky Blair, a signed jersey, and a signed book, and all those kind of fun things. Gretchen, do you got any questions for him? You're muted. You got to turn off your mute. I still don't see you. You're still muted. Yeah, you know sign language? Let's see if we get you going here.
Might be on your end, Doug.
I don't have her muted. I already checked.
The host muted me.
There.
No, it's
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay. So, well, I have more so comments to make on this one, about the donuts. I really don't think he's ever not eaten a donut that was available. If it's there, maybe he tries for that one he described, but he'll eat all of the other ones too. He does not discriminate the donut.
He's inclusive when it comes to donut.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
That's when you like. The rest of them you don't like, but you keep eating them.
Yeah, that's
the other thing I wanted to share was that I'm putting on Rocky's social media. There's a link, and I made it so that we have a link to the Pulling Each Other Along project. So I'm going to make sure that anybody can find the fundraising page, and then I can also make it so that they can find this bundle easier too,
right?
So that they can bid on it or buy it or however you're doing that.
Right.
And it's also interesting that he's giving away all these great items like signed Rocky Blair jerseys and sweatshirts from Rocky Blair. And I am still wearing a screen printed from Kmart jersey to my games because I don't even have that stuff. So I think that your listeners and the people who are excited about your book are getting a really great deal.
I think so too, and we're going to throw some other things in there as well but it'll probably be a little more expensive. So this is the last one at $650 with the jersey and the book and we're doing a hoodie with our Pulling Each Other Along logo and hats with our pulling, but we're doing them in black and gold for the Rocky package.
That's awesome.
Oh, good. Great. Okay.
I need to have an Eagles package too, though, because we do have an Eagles story in this as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Did you ever meet Leonard Tost?
Oh, right.
You know who Leonard Tost is?
Right. Yes, I know.
Yeah. You know who he is? The old owner of the
right
of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Right. Yes.
So I'll give you a little tidbit about his story and how he pulled everybody along, even though he had a rough go of it. But in our story, his granddaughter, Marnie Schneider, writes a chapter about how her grandfather, funded the first ever Ronald McDonald House and got that whole thing going.
Wow.
And the way Ronald McDonald House has served me, Dave Clark, his family, my family. Those who don't know, I have a son that was born with neither arm, and we've been at those Ronald McDonald Houses, and they're a huge blessing to families like us. And so to me, the granddaughter, and to have that in our book, to talk about how Ronald McDonald House has gotten started by the Philadelphia Eagle owner.
Right.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
You have an Eagle story as well.
Yeah. Before we go, I wanted to just take this time to thank all those who wrote in a note. Sorry we didn't get to answer all their questions, but and those who thank me for their service. I want to thank you for reaching out and being a part of this podcast. So I'm sorry that we weren't able to get to all those questions over there, but we do appreciate you tuning in and being involved. And so thank you.
Absolutely. And the chat thing, I'm not sure I get all of the chat that comes up here. I think we get it from some of the social media, but I'm not sure we get it from all of the social media. But I do really appreciate people tuning in. We did have a question I was going to try to get to you. But it was a football question, you and Franco and your 1,000-yard year.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of part of the book. So maybe we can save that one. You mentioned that in your chapter about literally how Terry Bradshaw, I believe, pulled you along in that one.
That's right. No. Yeah. You want me to share that now? So
yeah, if you want, we're on your time now.
But actually, it wasn't Terry Bradshaw who helped pull us along. It was oh my goodness gracious! It went right out of my mind. The defensive end for the Cleveland Browns during that period of time.
Okay.
In the games, and it just sacked Bradshaw, knocked him out of the game, and it was the fifth game of the season, or the fifth game of the season. We had 9 games left, and our backup quarterback was a rookie. Mike Krushek was his name, and all of a sudden we had to pare down our whole offense. And the defense got hot in those remaining 9 games. They shut out 5 opponents. They allowed 23 points scored, minus yard rushing. If you think about it, like 3 and out, offense was on the field. So Mike Krushek threw the ball 17 times in 9 games.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was Franco left, Rocky right, whatever it was. And because of Joe Turkey Jones, thank you very much, and the Cleveland Browns, I gained 1,000 yards rushing along with Franco, and we become the second set of running backs in the history of the NFL to do that feat. So so I have a warm spot in my heart for the Cleveland Browns for allowing us to achieve that.
There you go.
So they pulled us along.
There's different ways that you can get pulled, right?
That's right. That's it. So
that's very, very nice. Well, thank you, Rocky. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. It's great to have you as part of the team, the Pulling Each Other Along team, and hopefully we get to do some book signings or something together in the future. And who knows? But if the folks that are still listening, please go to pullingeachotheralong.com, find the link to the Kickstarter. At nothing else, get a book. But if you want some more stuff, some more perks, we will be great and very glad to have it. So, Gretchen, did you have something else? I'd taken you off because of. Go ahead, Gretchen. You got something?
Oh, I was just reminding everybody to just. Well, first of all, Rocky, did you see that Mike Cotton is chiming in? He said, "Thank you for your service and thank you for your help with his documentary, China Beach." So that's another exciting documentary. If you guys have time, you want to know. I didn't know anything about China Beach, but now I feel like I know loads about China Beach.
That's right. Yes, a great documentary.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and tell the folks that are still listening, if they're still listening for a reason. What's that all about? That's new to me. This documentary.
The documentary was China Beach, and China Beach was obviously it was a beach over in Vietnam. But so a lot of veterans, that were on the coast, it was like part of home. It was China Beach was like the beaches of LA. And so, guys would come over, were surfing, in the 60s in LA. And then all of a sudden, they're in Vietnam. All of a sudden, China Beach became a mecca for them, where they could almost be a part of what their experience was back on the West Coast there in Vietnam, called China Beach. And so they would be out surfing or taking place. So it was like an R&R section. So it's really a great documentary for those who experienced that and got a chance partake in China Beach and escape their everyday duties at that time and go out and just be a part of home. So that's what China Beach and Mike Cotton did a wonderful job of being able to pull that together, that documentary. So anyway, so that's
great. And a good shout out. Thank you, Mike, for joining us, and a lot of other folks that joined us. So we do appreciate that.
That's right.
And there's obviously, Rocky, you've got a truckload of fans. There you go. You're even the greatest halfback to ever play.
That's right. They must be a family member. Who said that?
It's like Dave Clark was the nastiest knuckleballer ever, right, Dave?
Right. To my brother, maybe.
That's right.
All the kids,
that's right.
All the kids at the Sandlot just over here to my right that you played in so many years ago. But that's the way it goes. So anyway, it's been a pleasure. Thank you again for your service, Rocky, and my father served, so I appreciate that. And most of us are connected to somebody that served in our military, and so we are grateful and grateful for you, Purple Heart winner. Or I don't know if that's a win, but a recipient. But anyway, thank you again, and we'll hopefully connect with you here soon. Anything else, guys, that we want to end up with? I'm still cheering for Miami.
Just thank you, Rocky, for being on the show tonight, giving us your time. It's and being part of the book. It's
you're right, Dave.
It's really a privilege. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Gretchen.
Thank you. Okay.
Go ahead, Rocky. What you got?
No. I was just going to thank everybody that's involved with the book, and more importantly, getting a chance to meet you and now call you friend. So I appreciate that, Dave and Doug, and thanks, and Gretchen. I love you. So
right. The other day said goodbye because his cell phone cut off while he was driving. So Gretchen, nice to meet you as well. Thanks for helping us.
Nice to meet you guys.
And thanks for everybody that's listening. This has been the Pulling Each Other Along show. We typically do this show on Thursday evenings around 7. I think we're going to move the time to 7. We've been doing it at 7:30. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on some other shows. Thanks. And we do truly, really, really, really hope you jump in and can help us get this Kickstarter going and the Pulling Each Other Along message out there. Thank you guys, and we will see you